Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. I enjoy how easy the meals are to make and the variety to choose from, and of course, how amazing the meals taste. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. You can choose from a variety of new recipes each week, like meatball pizza with fresh mozzarella cheese and charmed tomatoes, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you're never going to get bored. Customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. Blue Apron has several delivery options, so you can choose what fits your needs, and there's no weekly commitment, so you only get deliveries when you want them. Each meal comes with a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe and pre-portioned ingredients and can be prepared in about 40 minutes or less. Blue Apron's freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your delivery arrives ready to cook, or they'll make it right. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. You're going to love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so do not wait. That's blueapron.com/Mike and Mike. Blue Apron, it's a better way to cook.
Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Here we are. We're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance, and we are busy this morning. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line will include our buddy Michael Kay, who spent all season long doing play-by-play of the New York Yankees on the Yes Network, and, of course, you hear every afternoon everybody in New York with the Michael Kay Show with Don and Peter and everybody else on 98.7 ESPN New York. Booger McFarland is in with me this morning. Kansas City with the big win last night. And again, the stories to me coming out at game, well, there are multiple, but there's twofold. There's the game-winning field goal with 4 seconds left that ends the competitive part of the game, and a huge win for the Chiefs, who are now and remain the only unbeaten team left in the NFL. And then there's the fumble Rooski, last play of the game, meaningless scoop and score touchdown, except that with that play is both the point spread and the over. That's unimaginable. Those kind of crazy bad beats in the NFL.
Well, I think you either made or ruined a lot of people's day based on that fumble. As a player, we never thought about that. All I would think about was scoring that touchdown. Like, you don't get an opportunity to score a touchdown in an NFL game. I only scored 2 in my career, 1 in college and 1 in the pros.
What was the pro one? How did you score?
Sack fumble, Michael Vick in the end zone. I got up and did the wiggle.
Sack fumble, so, meaning he was actually sacked in the end zone, so you fell on the ball.
No, I sacked him.
Right.
He fumbled the ball. I fell on it. I scored. I wiggled.
So when you say you scored, did you have to pick it up and run, or were you already in the end zone?
I was already in the end zone.
All right, okay, so you sacked him in the end zone.
Yes.
That's a great play.
It's a tremendous play.
And to have done it off Michael Vick is phenomenal, too.
Yes.
I mean, he did it off a really famous quarterback.
Well, I was famous, too, but I mean.
No, I understand that, but my point is you can forever say you did that. Like Mike Golick had 3 career interceptions. Yeah. One of them was against Troy Aikman. The other 2 were Don Majkowski and Jim Everett, and he was tackled by the quarterback all 3 times. So, I mean, you scored a touchdown by strip sack fumble on Michael Vick. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no doubt. And to Golick's point, I did get 1 interception. The night we opened up Lincoln Financial Field, Monday Night Football, I got a pick and I just fell down.
Okay.
I didn't want to run.
All right. The other thing that we've talked a lot about this morning, and I want to bring Michael in on this note because I know Michael loves music, and he ends his show every single night. For those of you who listen to the Michael Kay Show in New York, he ends his show with a Billy Joel lyric every single day. There are some musical artists that you make an emotional attachment to, and those things are really important. And we lost one of those for me yesterday with the death of Tom Petty. It's just hard to believe, that news just comes across, and it's just, he's a man I never met in my entire life. I never interviewed him. I never spoke to him, and yet there are no words to describe how much he spoke to me in my life. And so as we bring Michael in on that note, and of course we will talk Yankee baseball with him in the morning. And good morning, Michael Kay. Booger is here with me. How are you today?
I'm great, guys. How you doing?
We're good. We got into a topic of what are songs that when you hear them, you immediately start singing along. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, what else is going on, but boom, that song comes on and you just start singing along. Booger has some, I love Booger's choices. What is your song, Michael, along those lines?
Well, this will tip you off that I'm a child of the 70s. If I hear Build Me a Buttercup, I actually sang that song at my wedding.
Oh, I like that. I know that one.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, it is.
And, it got a second life in Something About Mary.
That's exactly right. That I think is where most people know that song from at this point, is from the credits of Something About Mary, which are extraordinarily entertaining. Speaking of entertaining, Michael, you have to see Booger. Let me just play you a little bit of one.
Which one are you going to play him?
I'm going to play Alanis Morissette.
Please do that. Yes.
Okay, and then for those of you watching on TV, you just have to see Booger's face.
On your wedding day, when it's already paid.
Oh, that's so good. So we're having a little fun. Michael K., how are you this morning?
I'm great, thank you. I'm looking forward to the game tonight.
Yeah, okay. That's his way of saying, can we talk about baseball
Please,
here,
exactly.
guys? He's tired of this already.
Not at all.
All right, here's what we've got. You got the Twins and the Yankees. You have a Twins team that was basically buried midseason. Early August, they're 4 games under 500, and they have turned it on. And Timmy Kirkjian was on talking this morning about how they've been as good an offensive team as there's been in baseball over the last 2 months. The Yankees send Luis Severino to the mound tonight, who obviously has been great all year long. How much leash, if any, does he have tonight with Girardi, who has had a little bit of a history of a quick hook in the postseason and a really good bullpen sitting behind him?
Well, I don't think that as far as the Yankees are going to be in the playoffs, no starter is going to have a long leash. I mean, he'll yank them in the first or second inning. That's how deep their bullpen is. So Severino's their best pitcher, so he's going to get maybe the benefit of the doubt if there are a couple of runners on. But I could see Girardi mixing and matching and getting 8 innings out of the bullpen. But I don't expect Severino to get into early trouble like that.
Michael, when we look at the center of this lineup, when you talk about Sanchez and Aaron Judge, how do you expect them to perform tonight? Because they're essentially been carrying this offense pretty much all season.
It's a great question, and I think that's one of the variables with the Yankees. I look at this Yankee team, and I say they could beat anybody in the playoffs. They really could. Things have to go their way, but if you break down their roster, the most important people have never been here before. Judge has never been here before. Sanchez has never been here before. Severino has never pitched a postseason game in his life, even in the minor leagues. And then you got Greg Bird. So you got a lot of guys that have never done this before. All of a sudden, they're going to be under the brightest spotlight and the hottest spotlight in New York City. So, I mean, they seem like they're guys that don't get rattled or anything like that, but you never know until you step up there in that big moment. So I can't answer. If you look at their body of work in 2017, I don't think that anything really sets them back. So they should do okay, but we'll see when the pressure gets turned on.
Michael, one of the things we've heard about Joe Girardi, forgetting the pitching changes in the lineup, is that in big games, Joe Girardi tends to get a little tight, and his players feel that, and they play a little tight. How concerned are you about Joe Girardi's temperament and how his team is going to feed off of it?
One thing about Joe Girardi, he's consistent. I wouldn't say that he gets tight. He's just a guy who manages every single game as if it's the 7th game, which is going to serve him well today because this is the 7th game, essentially. That's what Major League Baseball did by adding the second wild card. I don't think that any of the players will feed off the tightness and what you're calling it. He's just a very, very serious guy. And he's serious on April 15th, and he's going to be serious on on October 3rd. So I don't think his temperament is going to set his team back. They're used to, Joe Girardi. He's not that laugh-a-minute guy in the dugout. He's just not.
Michael K. is with us here again, calls the Yankee play-by-play all season long on the Yes Network. And we've had a lot of conversations here this year about the style in which the game is played today. And there's perhaps no player who exemplifies that more than the Yankees' young star, Aaron Judge, where he is swinging for the fences basically in every at-bat, and it is either going to be a home run or it's going to be a strikeout. And that's a huge part of what the game is right now. There have never been more strikeouts in the sport than there are now, and there have never been more home runs in the sport than there are now. I'm asking you a bigger picture question now. What is your take on that, on the style of which the game is played, on fewer balls being put in play, and whether or not that is a big picture concern for Major League Baseball?
I think it's a huge picture concern because that's why games take 3 hours and 20 minutes. And, there's just a lot of pitches being thrown. Every time you look up, Aaron Judge is 3-2. He works the count. So you can't knock him for the type of a player he is because although he struck out over 200 times, he had a higher batting average than anybody who's ever done that before in Major League Baseball history. He has a great on-base percentage. He has 52 home runs. He scores runs. He does everything you want him to do, plays great defense, and is also a very good runner. But he is the poster child for what baseball is right now. Give me a home run, and if not, you could strike out, and everything is cool. It's just a different feel. All the guys I work with on the Yes Network, a guy like Ken Singleton, he said, you couldn't strike out when he played for Earl Weaver. He would give you a look. You weren't supposed to strike out. Now it's accepted. It's part of the game, and that's why the games take as long as they do.
So does anything change that? If you're Rob Manfred and if he calls you and he says, Michael, let's have lunch today, and let's talk over what I can do about this because I have no balls in play. Games are taking longer. It's a concern for me. What would you tell him he could change?
I don't think he could change it. I mean, That's what scares me. I love this game. I don't think he could change it because everybody that comes out of the bullpen throws 100 miles an hour. It is a strikeout, home run game now. I'm not sure you could change it.
Michael Kay is
and
with us.
And I tell him I'd like you to pick up the check. That's what I would tell him.
Well, you would tell him that, and you would also be very specific about the things that could be involved in this lunch, right? I mean, we've had this conversation many times before, but we have new audiences all the time. You're a man who redefines being very specific about what you will and will not eat.
Never had a condiment, so there'll be no mayo, no ketchup, no mustard on the plate. Never had the dish if it's out of the sea. It's not for me. Never had an egg. Never had a tomato. So it would be a very limited lunch, probably a burger.
Okay, Michael, stop. So when you eat French fries, what are you dipping your fries in?
My mouth.
Okay, besides your mouth, are you putting them in, no ketchup?
Nothing.
No, I'm going to tell you why, Booger. If you got to put it in ketchup, then you don't like the taste of the French fry. You just like
the taste of ketchup. It's a French fry. We're not talking about a steak where you need steak sauce. It's a fry.
Yeah, and I love the taste of a fry. I don't want to have ketchup on it. That's the same thing I always say about lobster. People love lobster, right?
Yeah.
And all they do is dunk it in butter. You can put oat tag in butter. It would just taste the same thing.
Are you kidding me? Okay, you've never had an egg.
Never.
Are you serious? Where do you get your protein from besides steak and chicken then?
That's about it. String cheese.
I've never met somebody who don't like eggs.
No, he's not making any of this up. We've had this conversation a million. He and I have talked about this both on and off the air. Not always the most scintillating off the air.
My mind is blown right now.
No, that's it. He doesn't do it.
He doesn't need ketchup solves everything. If you don't like I had to eat duck one time. Hated duck. Dip it in ketchup, it's okay.
Yeah. But Michael's point is then just don't eat the duck.
Yeah, but sometimes you're forced to eat it by the situation you're in. You don't want to.
Socially speaking,
See,
Michael.
I was the kid that was scarred at McDonald's as a little kid because, they make the burgers with the ketchup. So you'd have to stand there on the side while your whole family's eating, and I'd have to wait for them to make a plain hamburger.
Wow. That's remarkable. It really is. And I wonder, and for those who know Michael, he's married to a celebrity in New York City, and you're the toast of the city. You're like an in-demand, a couple, like a power couple. So you must get invited to all kinds of highfalutin dinners and parties and all that kind of stuff. Isn't there a lot of social pressure on you when you're sitting there to eat whatever it is that's being served once?
Well, it's sad because Jody comes in and she pretty much explains to everybody how strange her husband is so that it softens the blow when I turn everything down.
And that's pretty much the way he rolls.
I thought you were strange with these caprese salads. I've met the strangest eater in my life.
He wouldn't eat a caprese salad because it's got a tomato in it.
I would, but I order a caprese salad without the tomato.
In which case it ceases to be a caprese salad.
It's basically lettuce.
And it's mozzarella.
It's just cheese. Let me somehow make it all the way back to baseball here. Michael, do you, in your heart of hearts, expect the Yankees to win tonight? Because we've seen them in this spot a couple of years ago, and Dallas Keuchel took them right out of the playoffs. This is obviously a very different circumstance and a different team that is here maybe a year ahead of schedule, but looked like one of the better teams in baseball through most of this season. Do you expect them to make a deep run this year?
I think they can. I think this is a game, and I thought Joel Sherman had it perfect today in the New York Post. If these two teams played 100 times, the Yankees would win 65. But baseball is baseball. So if Irvin Santana, who's never won a game in the new Yankee Stadium, pitches a gem, all of a sudden they could be out. Do I expect them to win? Yes. Would I be surprised if they lost? Yes. Would I be shocked? No, because you can't be shocked. Because that's the nature of baseball. Any team could beat any team, even if you're way better than that team. So I think the Yankees are an extraordinarily good team. They play defense. They're smart. They have a really good manager. Their bullpen is deep. But the unfortunate thing about the Yankees in a wild card game, one of their strengths is the depth of their starting rotation. You don't get a chance to show that until you get into a series. So obviously they want to play Cleveland on Thursday, but they've got to get past the Twins, who are pretty pesky. But the Twins were 15-15 in the last 30 games. Yankees were 20-8 in September. They've been playing great baseball. They've been doing everything possible. But again, with one game, I'd be surprised if they lost, but they could.
It's Michael Kay. Again, you'll hear him this afternoon in New York on ESPN Radio New York, and, of course, all season long doing the games on the YES Network. Good to talk again, Michael. I'll see you soon. Thank you.
I'm sorry I shocked you, Booger.
See you
really
say, Michael, eat some fries and ketchup, buddy,
You've
please.
taken him right out of his.
Please.
That's it. He's going to be no good to me for the next 45 minutes here. Thank you, Michael. Michael Kay with us here on Mike and Mike. And you can tune in tonight again. The game is on ESPN TV, and it's here on ESPN Radio, presented by AutoZone. Coverage on the radio starts 7:30 Eastern Time. That's also on the ESPN app. And again, you'll see the game on TV on ESPN. It's, I have a love-hate relationship with this one-game play-in situation, as we've talked about earlier this morning. I love, first and foremost, what it has done for the regular season. I think adding the second wild card, which was Bud's idea, which he got criticized everywhere for, I think was the right thing to do. I think it placed a premium on winning the division, which I think is extraordinarily positive for baseball, and it added to these races. The Yankee-Red Sox race would have been meaningless, for all intents and purposes, meaningless, going right down to the end of the season, and there would have been almost no race behind them. So the baseball season, the American League, would have been over a while ago. So I like everything it's done for the regular season. It also gives you like 2 Game 7s today and tomorrow. Baseball's got a bang right here with, no football games tonight and tomorrow night. They get the stage to themselves, and you get these one-game winner-take-all situations, which are manufactured drama, but they are drama. I understand that. So that's a good thing. Having said that, baseball is not a sport that was meant to be decided by one game. So there is a piece of me that feels a little bit, whichever team gets knocked out tonight, it's sort of like those opening round games in the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. Do those teams that lose those games even really feel like they were in the NCAA tournament? Did they get their one shining moment? Does the loser of tonight's game really feel like it was in the baseball postseason? That's sort of the way I look at it.
There's a reason they call them play-in games, or at least most people refer to them in the NCAA tournament as play-in games. And, Greeny, you talk about how far the game has come, adding the additional wild card. In my opinion, advance it. Let's not just stop there. And how you advance it is you figure out a way to give an advantage and make game 157 in the regular season, which everyone says is meaningless. How do you make that game meaningful? And the way you do it is you reward the team with the better record. Like in this case, it would be the Yankees. The Yankees have a 6-game advantage over the Minnesota Twins, allow the Yankees the ability to win one game. One game. They don't have to play with that pressure of a Game 7. You win one game, you move on. But the Twins, because you did not have a better regular season than the Yankees, you have to win 2. You're right. Baseball was not meant to be played in a vacuum of one game. It is meant to be played in a series. The Yankees bullpen, once you get to the 6th inning, it's lights out. They may not get to show that because it's only a one-game scenario.
Yeah, and to further illustrate your point, there have been 10 wild-card games so far in this still relatively new playoff format. The road team has won 7 of the 10 so far. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance, our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Let me bounce a quick thought off you here. I've been trying to get this in all morning long. I saw 2 stories about Louisville yesterday. One of them, which comes as no surprise whatsoever, is that the Louisville Board of Trustees voted unanimously to begin the Rick Pitino termination process. Mm-hmm. So their take is going to be we only owe him 10 days of salary from the moment that he was relieved of his duties, and we do not owe him the other $40-something million that were remaining on his contract. That was as predictable as anything could be. You knew that that's the way this thing was going to go, that Pitino was not going to continue to be the coach there. Another story that didn't get nearly as much attention is this one. Less than a week after Tom Jurich was placed on administrative leave in the fallout of the blah, 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 Louisville interim president Greg Postel, I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce his name, says the school will re-examine its recently announced 9-figure extension with Adidas. In August, they announced a 10-year, $160 million extension with Adidas, which paid Pitino $2.25 million directly last year. And for those who didn't follow the story last week, the story is that they are now removing Pitino with cause for. So here's my point, okay? They can't say, well, we don't have any reason to believe Adidas was part of the problem here. Because by removing Patino with cause to try and save yourself the $40 million, which is totally understandable, you are acknowledging the truth of the story. The story is that Adidas gave $100,000 to this recruit at the urging of Patino or with the knowledge of Patino or Patino should have known. However, you're going to go about saying that you're firing him with cause.
Right.
The answer cannot be, well, Rick had no idea and was not at all culpable, because then you got to write him a $40 million check. So you've got to acknowledge that Patino was in the wrong, and in order to do that, you have to acknowledge that Adidas gave the kid the money. That you can't have it both ways. So if you're going to do that, how do you keep the $140 million?
From Adidas?
Yeah.
I think you keep it because Adidas isn't under the same responsibility that Patino would be to the university. And I think the university would say, yes, Adidas, you're wrong. We're going to slap you on the wrist. But when it comes to the NCAA, and to my knowledge, I don't think the Adidas is going to be governed by the NCAA.
Well, of course it's not, but they're governed by the laws of the United States of America, and it was one of their executives who is now being charged with defrauding or fraud or whatever the terminology is here. Correct. Of the university itself. That's the reason all of this. The actual aggrieved party in all of this is the school.
That executive will no longer be working at Adidas.
Right.
Adidas will basically use the same analogy that the coaches used. You know what? We didn't know anything about it. He's in charge of the basketball division. This is what he did. We've removed him. He's no longer working there. And if you're Louisville, you want the $140 million.
Oh, of course.
You want everything that Adidas is giving you. You want, because Adidas is helping pay your coach. Whoever the next high-profile coach is at Louisville, Adidas is going to kick in a part of that salary. It's all a part of the game. Hey, we pay you, your team, which is one of the most profitable college basketball teams in the country. Where's Adidas? You're our main brand. And from an Adidas standpoint, you say, you know what? We're going to slap that guy on the wrist. We'll move him. We'll fire him. We'll bring somebody else in. And Adidas being one of the most profitable companies, Greeny, in the world, okay, they're right up there with, you talk about Nike and Under Armour. From a basketball standpoint, everything they're trying to do with James Harden shoe and all that, this all plays into the bigger picture. So is Adidas going to back away from Louisville? I don't think so. Does Louisville want Adidas to back away? Not at all. They'll just remove that guy and say, you know what? Let's keep this deal rolling where we had it at.
Of course. Don't get me wrong. I'm not in any way suggesting they're going to turn their back on $140 million or even that they should. All I'm asking you is there any hypocrisy, or maybe more to the point, is it the best possible illustration of what's actually going on here that they are at the same time firing Rick Pitino with cause because Adidas gave $100,000 to a recruit and not turning their back on the $140 million from Adidas?
There's hypocrisy, but what Adidas will say is we didn't give it. A rogue basketball guy gave it. And so therefore we can separate ourselves from this situation without saying Adidas in a whole, a representative of Adidas in charge of basketball liaison or however you put it. He's the guy that we've gotten rid of. Now we can move on.
Understood. That's the way they'll position this thing.
But to your point, the hypocrisy is definitely there.
And listen, nothing could possibly illustrate where we are in college, big-time college athletics than that.
Yeah.
This coach is out. He knew this was happening, and this is 100% with cause. Doesn't matter how many times we've stood by him through how many scandals, but we are not giving him his $40 million because this was a bridge too far. He was 100% in the wrong here. Give me the $140 million from Adidas. They didn't know. It's not their fault. They didn't know. There's one bad guy, one rogue guy over there. Give me the money, and we'll go on from there. Listen, I'm not blaming them.
Yeah.
You would do the same thing if you were in their position. But, boy, if that doesn't tell you that the system needs to be revamped, nothing will.
And, to your point, Greeny, here's something else to watch at Louisville. Okay, Tom Jurek, the AD, is probably going to get the same fate that Rick Pitino is going to get. Well, guess what? Tom Jurek also hired Bobby Petrino.
Right.
So don't be surprised over the next few months if Petrino either finds another job or he gets fired also.
His buyout gets cut in half, I think,
exactly.
if Jurich is no longer the athletic director. All right, all that and more on the menu this morning. Let's hear from you, and we'll hear from Louis Riddick. He'll join us live in studio next.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
2020 tie. High snap, pulled down. Butker's kick is up. It is right down the boulevard. It's good. good, and the Chiefs take a 23-20 lead with 4 seconds left in regulation, and Harrison Butker kicks some, you know what, as he pledges the Chiefs' kingdom in his first game.
101 the Fox, the win for the Chiefs last night. They remain the NFL's only unbeaten. That made it 23-20. They then tacked on a scoop score on that crazy fumble, throw it around lateral play at the very end of the game, which actually was the point spread and the over. So a crazy finish last night for anyone who had an interest in the game beyond the game. The Raiders will lose their quarterback Derek Carr for at least 2 weeks with a fracture in his back. That they can obviously withstand. If it gets to be 6 weeks, we may have ourselves a real problem here. We'll talk about that with Louis Riddick in our studio, as well as Booger in a moment. And again, the Twins and Yankees play tonight. American League wildcard game. It's 8 Eastern on ESPN and ESPN Radio. And Louis Riddick joins us here with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Good morning, Louis Riddick.
Man, how are you?
We're well.
Big watch you got on, bro.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with Greeny. Greeny's got that nice.
I like a watch you can land a plane on. Okay, let's get into
helicopter pad.
A bunch of different stuff to get to this morning with you here, Louis, both on and off the football field. Let's start on.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs. Is it me or is Alex Smith? I heard what you were saying to Van Pelt last night. We played it a little bit earlier this morning. That sometimes he makes you a little frustrated because of his lack of willingness to sort of let it go. And part of that is managing the game, and part of it is, is what it is. But when big plays have needed to be made this season, he has made them both with his arm and with his legs. And right now, he is the difference to me in watching that team between being like everybody else and being unbeaten.
Yeah, look, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. That'll win you a lot of games. 8.8 yards per attempt. That'll win you a lot of games. The guy right now is setting career highs as far as his completion percentage and his yards per attempt. And yards per attempt is the biggest one for me with him because there's a different Alex Smith that is showing up this year as far as how he is pushing the ball downfield. And I know we say that all the time, but he is pushing the ball down the field. And I don't know if that's because he sees Patrick Mahomes in practice take the ball and just sling it some, and whether Andy has kind of really got him to not be reckless with the football, but be more willing to push the ball down the field and take more chances because he's good enough to do it. I don't know what it is, but he's a different player this year. He's playing freer. He's trusting himself. He's trusting his ability to not just win with his legs and pick up first downs that way, but to win with his arm. And that pass last night, the one that you're seeing here play on a loop, when he rolled out to his right, that was his first pass he completed out of the pocket, I believe, all night long. And that's a pinpoint pass. That's a hard pass to make. There's only a few quarterbacks who can put that where he put that with consistency. And if he can continue to do that, Greeny, with the way Kareem Hunt is playing, which is no accident, because that's a perfect storm of this kid was undervalued coming out of Toledo. People didn't want to name and talk about him in the same breath that they were talking about guys like Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey. But the scouting staff down there in Kansas City was high on him from the get-go last January. The head coach is behind him. When they got that kind of combination, an unsung, underrated offensive line, pass rushers that can close out games when Dee Ford and Justin Houston are on the field together, this is a team that, look, they play complementary football at its finest. They're going to be there in the very end. They're going to be in there in the championship game unless something derails them from an injury standpoint. And a lot of that has to do with circling all the way back to how Alex is playing much different this year than he's played at any point in his career.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate. As a defensive guy, if I'm scouting this team and going against this team, here's what I say. Figure out a way to stack the box to take away Travis Kelce. Do they have enough weapons on the outside? If you take away Kelce, can Alex Smith and the wide receivers beat you?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the $1,000,000 question, Boog, is when they come down on Kelce and really just say, I don't care what. You're not going to beat us, and we're going to stack this box, and we're not going to let Kareem Hunt just go off on us over and over and over again. The guy who really comes into focus then is Tyreek Hill. Because the question before the season was, when you are really asked to be a number one, and I mean asked to be in November and December, when it's cold, that ball feels hard as a rock, and you need to pick up that first down on 3rd and 8, are you going to be the guy who's going to be able to run the route that allows Alex to keep drives going and win football games? That's going to be the deciding factor, no question about it. And I don't know the answer to that yet. I know that there are people down there who believe that Tyreek is not just a flash in the pan. He's not just a fast gadget guy that can hit you with big plays once in a while, that he is a legit wide receiver. And I know this. If you watch the Chiefs tape this year, Andy has more stuff in his arsenal than you can possibly imagine as far as getting people open. And the way he is being creative with Travis, with Tyreek, with Albert Wilson, with Kareem Hunt, They're going to be there.
Right, and to your point, Greeny, what he's talking about, and when you look at an offense, most traditional pro offenses, you think about the quarterback in the pocket. Andy Reid is basically saying, you know what, the college game isn't giving us a lot of pro-style setups from an offensive line standpoint nor a quarterback standpoint. So let's do what these guys do best. Let's bring some of the RPOs, the run-pass options. You see the Kansas City Chiefs, they're running a college offense, basically. Now, he still has some pro concept, but if you look at what they're doing, they're running a college offense with a great tight end and a pretty good running back.
And they've got the quarterback sitting there waiting in the wings, Patrick Mahomes, who eventually will run it. We'll see when that day comes. Mike and Louis Riddick is here. We've put a lot of musical artists at the mics today, and that is brought to you by Dave & Buster's. Watch the games and play the games at your football headquarters. That's Dave & Buster's. All right, let's talk about some of the AFC contenders right now with the Chiefs off to this terrific start. One of them is New England, and we brought this stat up earlier today. Everyone's talking about their defense, and for good reason.
Yep.
Tom Brady has been sacked 13 times in 4 games this year. He was only sacked 15 times all of last season. He's on pace to be sacked 52 times. The man is 40 years old. I understand that he's Captain America, as Herman likes to call him. But what can they do to make sure he's not taking that kind of beating, or will he be able to stand up to it all season long?
Yeah, and you know what? They'll figure out ways in order to vary their protections and be more precise as far as protection calls and making sure that they're keeping enough guys in to block if it becomes a situation where they just feel like they're outmanned from a one-on-one matchup perspective and they're getting them hit too much. And Tom, you will see, I'm sure, as the season goes on, he will pick up his pace and tempo as far as I'm getting the ball out. I just am. And we've said that every year. We've said every year about the Patriots, too. There's always some growing pains with this football team in September. And every year, if you listen to Bill talk in the offseason, he says this all the time to people. He tries to educate people on this all the time. And I need to remember it myself, that every year is different. I don't care if you bring back the same 53 guys. It always looks different. The chemistry's different. The timing's different. You cannot assume how the way that it ended last year against the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl was the way they were going to start out this year. And I think this team is a work in progress. Going over to the defensive side, and I know we've talked about this and many people have kind of like threw their opinions in here about this. The Patriots are not lacking in the secondary from a skill perspective.
No.
It is one of the most head-scratching things that, for me, in all the years I've been actually sitting here on TV and talking about why these guys can't get on the same page, considering how many veterans that they have and how long these guys have been, especially at safety with Bill.
Yep.
And I know how much he emphasizes communication from the signal callers. I know that signal callers, meaning Mike backers and safeties, have their own meetings in Bill's regime as far as making sure they know exactly what he wants and then practicing how they communicate it to the corners. To see them making some of the elementary mistakes that they are as far as handling stacks, bunches, crossers, it's mind-blowing to me. I've never seen it before, ever, as far from a Bill Belichick coach team. I think they'll get that figured out. I think this team will be okay once they get down the stretch.
Doesn't it make you think there's something else going on, though? Like, when you got veteran players.
I don't know what it could be. I really don't. Because these are vet guys. Look, Patrick has been there. Devin McCourty has been there. Deron Harmon has been there. They were all drafted there. So they know what he wants. I don't know what the communication issues are, but there's some heads will roll up there if they don't get it straightened out. Bill will not let that stay the way it is. I can guarantee you that.
We opened the show with this conversation today. I said, if you're not going to give Bill the benefit of the doubt, who are you giving it to? In fact, I want to trademark this. I'm changing it to the benefit of the doubt. I believe he gets the benefit of the doubt.
As he should.
Because if he doesn't get it, nobody does. All right, Mike, you can stay, right, Louis?
Yeah,
I want to keep you here because we still got to get to another AFC contender that may have fallen by the wayside. And very important, I have a signed bobblehead update. Up next, I will explain how we'll be giving away some signed bobbleheads today if you are interested in that. So we have that coming up in a moment after a word from AutoZone. All right, defensive players, which both of you guys were, spend their entire careers trying to get to the quarterback. So offenses have to make sure they're well protected with a solid offensive line. And the same goes for your car. It needs the absolute best protection, and that's why you need Valvoline oil. It protects your car's engine from rust and corrosion like 5 offensive linemen. And right now at AutoZone, you can get a great deal on Valvoline conventional motor oil and an STP filter. So visit your local AutoZone today and keep your car in the game. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Back in a moment. Mike and Mike. Mike and Mike Booger McFarland in for Golick today. We have terrific conversation working with Louis Riddick here. A lot of football talk. Plenty of baseball this morning as well. If you missed Timmy Kirkchin in hour number 2, a reminder you can hear any and all 4 hours of Mike and Mike on demand in the ESPN app. You can also subscribe to the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. It's all available on the Listen tab of the ESPN app. Very quick bobblehead update, because if you've been listening the last couple of weeks, you know that we are giving away all of our bobbleheads. Mike and I are signing them all and sending them out as a way of saying thank you to everybody for spending these 18 years with us. I can't come up with enough ways to do it, so we gave 25 of them to Mike's wife, Chris, and 25 of them to my wife, Stacy, and they're going to give them away however they choose. Stacy's doing her first bobblehead giveaway right now. It involves tonight's baseball playoff game. So if you want to see it and get details on it and you want to get a signed bobblehead, go to her Twitter page, @StacyGSG. I won't take up the time here. Just go there. You send her a picture of your dog dressed up. This is what she likes.
I like the fact that you're saying that you gave 25 to your wife and 25 to Mike's wife.
Yeah.
In actuality, they were giving them away. And
right.
You guys said, you know what? Let's come up with the way where we can take ownership of this, where it doesn't look like our wives are controlling everything at our show.
What actually happened, if you must, I didn't want to get sidetracked into this conversation.
I'm just saying, that's what it is.
What happened was when we first started giving away the bobbleheads, people started tweeting both Chris and Stace saying, "Can you get me a bobblehead?"
Yeah.
Stace said to me, "Oh, Michael, can we give bobbleheads away?" I said, "No, we can't," because I didn't want to have to deal with that.
Right.
Unbeknownst to me, Chris started giving them away. She was saying yes, because she's sort of a big-hearted person, and people are like, "Oh, I've been listening forever." So all of a sudden, she's giving away bobbleheads left and right. So Stace hears about this and says to me, "You idiot, I was told, why did you tell me we can't give away bobbleheads?" So now we're giving away bobbleheads, because this is how things work.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I was outvoted 1-1, which happens in my house all the time. So we're giving away bobbleheads. So if you want a signed bobblehead, you have until the baseball game tonight, whatever. You can tweet Stace a picture of your dog. It's all there on her Twitter page if you're interested. @StacyGSG is the address. Okay, Louis Riddick.
Mm-hmm.
Raiders.
Yeah.
Derek Carr. If he's down 2 weeks, every team can overcome that. If he's down 6 weeks, do you cross them off the list of legitimate contenders?
Yeah, you start to worry a lot. Because, look, as nice as E.J. Manuel looked in the game against Denver and gave some people some hope as far as saying, look, this is a guy who can really fill in the way you want the ideal backup to fill in, which is maybe he can go 500 if he has to play for an extended time. By extended, I mean somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks. If he can play at a winning level. This is what the Raiders are going to have to do, though, regardless of how long Derek is out. They built this football team the right way. They have the highest amount of cap dollars allocated to the offensive line in the National Football League. That is how you want it. Those guys, especially the interior three, Rodney Hudson, Kalichi Osemele, Gabe Jackson, have to dominate now. That has to be their calling card. Beast mode has to be their mantra. It has to be the way they play. Khalil Mack has to play out of his mind. Carl Joseph has to be in the back end just absolutely intimidating people. And complementary football has to be the name of the game. If you don't play that way, if this offensive line continues to get stuffed and they become stagnant like they have the past 2 weeks, it's over if Derek is out an extended period of time. And over the past 2 weeks, Derek hasn't looked like Derek either. Something has seemed off with this football team where the first 2 weeks of the season we're going, Raiders will be there. They'll be one of the teams. They'll probably be in the AFC Championship game. In the past 2 weeks, you couldn't have said that before he got hurt. So this is a team that needs to recapture its identity, and that starts with those three nasty jokers on the inside of that offensive line. They have to dominate, because if they don't, it is over.
And let's take a look at the Bears when you look at the decision they've made to go to Mitchell Trubisky away from Mike Glennon. A, do you think it's the right decision? And B, do you think the decision was made because of what's going on in Houston and also the public sentiment, hey, why aren't you playing the rookie?
I think it's the right decision. I think without a doubt they're looking at what's going on in Houston and going, can we get a little bit of something like that, which is a quarterback who has a lot of the same skill sets as far as changing the launch point, getting out on the perimeter, picking up first downs with his legs. And then as far as public sentiment is concerned, will the Chicago fan base, our own locker room first and foremost, be more excited about football games and maybe what we can do as far as putting points up on the board first and foremost? And does our fan base really want to see him on the field? Yeah, they do. So, yeah, I don't think they can lose putting him out there. The only thing I would say is this. He doesn't have the same weapons as Deshaun.
Right.
That's a fact.
And he doesn't have the same lifetime of experience. I mean, Deshaun Watson has played so much more big-time football than this kid has, and that's why Lewis, I would respectfully disagree, and here's why. This feels to me like I was on the afternoon show in Chicago a few weeks ago, and they said, when should they go to Mitchell Trubisky? And I said, when he's ready. It should have nothing to do with the team's record. It should have nothing to do with how Mike Glennon looks. It should have nothing to do with anything else. And Deshaun Watson is a whole other level of ready with a whole other level of football team around him. This feels to me like they're going to it because the world is screaming for it, and the coach is going to get fired and everything else. And if this kid's not ready to play, you might actually do damage or whatever the word is to his long term by trying to rush him into something that there's no reason to rush.
But we don't know how ready he is from a mental standpoint. We really don't, unless we're sitting in there in the meeting rooms and in the install periods and in the 7-on-7s and teams in practice, whether or not we know how much volume he can handle and how much he can actually functionally use. I know this, though, during the preseason when he was playing Greeny, his game looked good.
Yeah.
It looked real good. Now, I know it's preseason, and people will use the preseason however it fits their agenda.
Right.
If they want to be positive about somebody, they'll say, look at the preseason. If they want to say he's not ready, they'll go, it's just the preseason. This kid was drafted number 2 overall for a reason. He just was. If you didn't think he would be ready at this point, and you thought Deshaun Watson is one of those guys who would be more, then you should have drafted Deshaun Watson. But they drafted him number 2. I understand wanting to protect his development. Believe me, I was saying that, but I also said this during the preseason. It's just a matter of time. I think this year it's going to be sooner rather than later. And, look, Dowell Loggins has to be careful as far as making sure that they protect the kid, making sure that these receivers are doing what they need to do, and continuing to run the football because they had a hell of a running game. They really do. They have a great 1-2 punch. Continue to use it. Lean on this offensive line. And I think he'll come out of the season unscathed, and he'll be able to continue on the right arc. But, look, this is the NFL, man. They don't let you sit on the bench for very long anymore, and young quarterbacks are ripping it up.
All right, listen, I could do this for 10 hours, but unfortunately we've run out of time. Lewis, thank you so much, as always, for coming by. It's a pleasure to see you. We'll do it again as soon as we can. And, Booger, we will do this again as soon as we can as well. Yep. When will you hear from your buddy Derek Brooks about what decision he's going to make? I'm expecting a scoop. I need some scoopage.
It'll be later today, probably this afternoon.
You'll hear that, on the 4th green?
Well, no, actually, it just depends whether he's in New York or hearing it via conference call. No, he's not going to do that.
No, are you going to?
No, I'm not going to tweet it. No,
we'll all find out when Shefty tweets
exactly.
it. Exactly.
Shefty will tweet it.
Have a great day. Thank you, everybody. Rest in peace, Tom Petty. I love you. See you tomorrow. Mike.